You can drop me anywhere, give me a cell phone, give me a credit card, and I'll get a deal by the end of the month. Last year, I want to say it was close to $60,000 with you guys. And right now we have 5, 6, 7, 8. I think we're up to like 10 contracts with you guys this year. I'm hoping to get $300,000 to $500,000.
This is Yuri again with iSpeedToLead, and I'm very excited to have Nick today talking about how iSpeedToLead brought his business to the new heights and also share some quick tips and tricks with you guys how you can get more out of your real estate investing and close more deals. Nick, very excited to have you today. How's it?
Man, it's going good. Thank you so much for having me here.
So first of all, do you mind sharing a little bit more about who you are? How did you start your wholesaling journey or real estate journey? And the more you can share, the better. So
yeah, it's a pretty cool story. So I'm 31 years old. I was in manufacturing for most of my life. I live in the Midwest in the States here, in the middle of nowhere, small town. I went to college, worked full time, got into manufacturing, worked my way up to be the plant manager actually of a local operation where I had anywhere from 50 to 70 people working for me. I found myself really unhappy. I felt held back. The company could only grow so much. I got into real estate to make some extra money. And at the time I thought, hey, I'm gonna buy some properties, make some cash flow, a couple $100 a month. I need to buy this many properties, right? And then I ran into wholesaling that was a couple years ago. I got my first deal done. It was a creative deal. I was in the sub 2 mentorship looking at buying houses that way. It turned out we could wholesale them, which was even better. And then naturally that led into, why aren't we doing cash deals? So the cash journey started last year when I left my job. I actually quit in January. They had me stay there till I think March probably. So I'm almost up on the 1 year. We went all in. So we already had sort of marketing figured out for creative deals, but they were getting tougher. So I really wanted to get into cash. We learned about paid marketing, PPL, and we started watching all the content, trying to implement some of these strategies. And we opted to go for an all-in approach where we basically, found all the credit cards, started buying leads. It wasn't I would never recommend doing what we did. We didn't have the systems in place. We didn't have the buyers in place. So we burned a lot of cash. There's a lot of deals that we turned away that we shouldn't have, but we didn't know if they were deals or not, right? But we did inevitably have some success, right? We made more money than we spent. We didn't get a 3-to-1 return on our spend or anything, but it was also due to our own just incompetence. But that's where we really took off our wholesale company. So we started to learn how to measure the KPIs and look at our business from just a number standpoint to see where the problems are. We started to study what industry averages are and what those mean. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily, there's no such thing as a bad lead. We started to learn those sort of things because we're very green to the cash side. We're mainly working with agents on creative. Towards the end of the year, we really started to get consistency in our deals with the paid marketing, but the cost was pretty high. We saw variability in the lead providers on the cost side. I don't want to drop names or anything, but some of the providers changed their entire program. And so our cost per contract went from, $3,000 to $4,000 up to we want 80 leads without getting a deal. It'd be one thing. I was on the phone. I was taking all of these leads. So I was using the same process. I could tell something was changing, and maybe it was our own process that was the issue. We had to find cheaper leads. So naturally, we looked at the coupon club. We looked at iSpeedToLead. We started working with you guys, getting just more reps in, more at bats. About that time, we really started to understand the volume that we needed to do good business. Sometimes you get contracts from 6 months ago that you paid for the lead, and so there's this whole cycle that has to happen. And we started to hit that. Even right now, I'm working with people from last June that I bought the lead for that are ready to sign a contract with me, right? So we really underestimated how long it takes to build a pipeline and get consistent conversions. You guys had opened up, you actually sent me a cold email, which I always appreciate cold emails because we're really good at cold email marketing and we understand it. So when it landed in my inbox, I was like, that's awesome. These guys are great. We got a contract that we ended up assigning for $53,000.
So which areas do you guys target right now? Where you guys close deals?
We're working mainly the Florida market. So anywhere in Florida that makes sense. If it's rural, we're going to look at novations. If it's in, major metro, Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, we have some VIP buyers that will actually go if it's a tight deal, they'll go to the property for us and give us their offer. We can kind of reverse wholesale just to save us some trouble. But nonetheless, we have a bunch of buyers in those markets. Outside of that, we're moving up into Georgia. We're doing a lot of agent outreach for cash deals. I'm actually going to be contracting our first one today. We just started doing that last month.
That sounds good. So where are you based right now? Like in Florida?
I live in Western Illinois.
Okay.
But our company is primarily operating in Florida. That's where our deepest roots are. We have the most connections. We have the best relationships with our buyers there. That's where we've spent most of, if not all of our marketing dollars is really in Florida.
How did it happen? Like, have a partner there, or is just like how did you get all those connections?
That's a good question. So when we decided we wanted to be niche down from nationwide creative to one market, we really looked at every state that's a red state as a first primary filter, because we eventually maybe want to hold properties, and we started looking at landlord friendly stuff, transaction volume, and all those things. And it really came down to like Florida or Texas. And I had family in Florida. I have some experience down there. We've done several deals there. And so our team kind of elected that Florida was a market we wanted to be in, because it's just sheer transaction volume, number of buyers. Everywhere you go, there's somebody that's ready to buy down in Florida. There's they're not making more land down there. So there is appreciation. Now, unfortunately, we got to deal with hurricanes. That just provides opportunities. What we did was we picked one market, like one city, actually, Jacksonville. We spent probably $80,000 in marketing there for sure. We did direct mail, we did all the things, and we met a lot of other investors. That's where we found a lot of our buyers, and turns out they buy in multiple cities. Getting deep into one market allowed us to meet people and utilize their connections and their networks, right? So you meet somebody, for example, one of the best buyers that we have, I got them to buy a deal from me that their offer, we couldn't renegotiate. The seller was not going to renegotiate, and we were upside down $2,000. And I just told them, like, hey man, we're at 69,000 or whatever it was. Can you just take this one for 71? We really need a win here. We'll bring you the next deal first. He bought it from us. The next deal, we assigned them in Sarasota with you guys for $53,000. And now that turns out to be a team of people that work together, and we've assigned them several deals. So, putting in that effort into one spot and getting to really know some real buyers that close, not daisy chaining, not other wholesalers, building those relationships with them, talking about your core values, talking about your business, what your ambitions are, allowed us to get access to their network. So whenever we need anything, you can send a quick text message and, hey, I'm looking for an eviction specialist in Tampa. And they're like, oh, this is my guy. This is the one you need, right? That's really propelled our business, is just by niching down and getting really deep and building a network.
I imagine Georgia is the spot because a lot of guys from Florida buy in Georgia too, or is just close by state? Like, what was their thought process there?
If I'm being honest, Georgia is just a really friendly state. The people and the real estate agents and everyone there, they're really nice. So it's easy to expand the agent side of our business, which is, getting referrals from agents. That's more of a different strategy than direct to seller. But the idea is working in agent friendly markets where, when you call down there and you talk to an agent, they have the Southern accent, they're friendly, they're always sending you deals, they want to work with you. And some of the other cities, and in Florida, of course, we're doing this too, but they're a little bit more uptight. But besides that, there are a lot of buyers in the Atlanta market. There's a giant region to cover there, right? There's tons of deals to be had. And we feel really comfortable with the types of homes and just the home values for us to do a really good job. If we went to like California or something, we're way out of our comfort zone. We don't know what we're doing. Moving up from Florida is very easy for us. And also with our company, at Sunbelt Home Offers, we have it's a Sunbelt state. We can leverage our connections in Florida. Be like, if they say, are you local? Yeah, we do a lot of business in Florida. We're doing business in Georgia now. And it's more of a natural progression for us to have those conversations. But other than its proximity to Florida and very nice people, we like the median home prices. We like the price points, that all the numbers really fit into our system and our process very well. So anyone on our team trained in Florida can operate in Atlanta pretty much with the same skill set, not having to, turn the dial too much.
Let's imagine you again the same spot, but you cannot spend 80,000 on marketing to try to penetrate Jacksonville. Would you still try to target maybe different markets that are, more popular amongst wholesalers? Or would you say you would stick your own backyard, like just what would be your strategy? And knowing that a little bit, how iSpeedToLead works too, for example, different options that are available out there.
I think there's no way around it. You have to get leads. I think anybody can scrounge up a couple $1,000s if they really want to, and you need at bats. I mean, if I was starting from scratch, I would probably go with something like the Coupon Club. I would be looking to get the cheaper leads, and just know that if you're not good, it's okay. This is how you get better. Nothing's worse than practicing on $300-400 leads. It's stressful. I can tell you when that, at the time, I think on property leads, we had our bid set to 500 because we needed to spend our target for the month. And, you get a $500 lead and you're like sweating, like, hi, this is Nick. How are you doing today? Like, I don't want to mess this up. Please sell me your house for the right price. And you end up doing a bad job because you're kind of willing it into existence. And when you spend $29, it's not that you don't care, but you need to be ready to walk away. Case in point with this California deal I'm working on, I don't want to do a condo in California. So I gave them a number that was like I don't want this number. And now they want to do the business with us. And if I knew that market, if I knew that was a deal, I would have been like, they would have negotiated me up on price and we probably would have had a bunch of problems, right? You got to come into a mindset of one, you're not going to be good if you're new. And two, you need to get practice. And the way you get practice is you talk to people. I'm a fan of the RJ Bates style on the phone. We did a mentorship where we did a very scripted process with all of our paid marketing. Only because we paid for it, we thought, well, we should follow their process, right? Different. If you don't get the results that you want, it's because you didn't follow the process. I'm a fan of having a process. I'm not a fan of having an exact script. The reason is it doesn't work on everybody. I understand why people have scripts. When you hire people, you want them to follow. What you really want is them to apply the same process to the same group of people so that we can figure out where the gaps are. And so when you're new, you should have a framework to how to talk to sellers. You need to have a guide of how to get through the conversation and how to close, because at the end, if you don't know how to get them to sign the contract, then you've just wasted your money anyway. New people starting out, spend some time learning. I would recommend go and check out RJ's closers formula. It's probably the simplest one to follow if you're a natural at talking to people. And then I would also look at the Coupon Club. You got to give your time to learn. When I started, when I first started in real estate, I think it was like 4 or 5 months before I made any money, and I was doing it part-time. And then fast forward, it's like impossible not to make money now. You just get hit with opportunities left and right, but you have to pay the ignorance tax and you have to learn and you have to build the skill set because it is a skill. But once you have it, the best part is no one can take it away. You know what I mean? You can drop me anywhere, give me a cell phone, give me a credit card. I'll borrow $1,000 from my mom if I need to, and I'll get a deal by the end of the month. Hopefully make, $20,000 on it, but no money's bad money. If it's a $5,000 spread, we're going to take it down. We're at that point where we make everything work.
You mentioned you've been also part of Sub2 community. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's where I started.
Okay. How did that go? So you're trying to close the first Sub2 deal, or like you still kind of got all the necessary knowledge, but you're still going straight for cash in most cases? Like how was this journey going?
Yeah. So when I joined, I had the idea of buying Sub2s for myself. And then as I learned about wholesale, it started immediately. I get hit in the face with, well, how do I find deals, right? Well, I need to call people. Like, who do I call? Agents. Okay. Then it's like, what type of agents? How do we, we started refining the list. And I was just calling on market listings with my cell phone, trying to get a hold of someone that would be open to it. And when I joined, agents didn't know what Sub2 was. So it was still in the golden days of where you were educating them on what this is. And they weren't like already up to speed on what it is. And so it was much easier. And I think we struggled with volume. Like we didn't have a system. We were just, randomly calling people. We would get a deal or something a month. And then when we focused down to a niche list, we got like the low equity list. We learned how to pull a low equity list. And then we started doing email marketing to them, blasting LOIs with customized PDF attachments, focusing on deliverability and text follow-ups, and really just hammering those agents. We got 4 or 5 good contracts right away. However, what happened is going into the new year, that was going into 2024, the agents started to learn what Sub2 is. A lot of these lists and processes were getting duplicated and used by everybody. So it was harder to find an agent that was a new idea to them. So now there's real competition on the deals, and people were bidding up the deals got smaller and smaller naturally. So like our average assignment was about $10,000, which is not bad actually for creative. but it started to get down. We started getting some $3,000 or $4,000 deals, and there was a few of us on the team, and with all the operating costs and splitting and how much work we were putting in, it was like frustrating, right? And so that's when we decided that we needed to get into cash, because you see these people posting, just made 20,000, just made 50,000. You don't make 20 or 50,000 on a creative deal. Creative deals are more complicated. You're still liable after the transaction if the buyer quits paying, which we've had that happen, where a year later the seller calls us, hey, this buyer is not paying. And so it was just a lot of stress. It felt like the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. And so we still use creative sparingly. I have, I think, one contract right now that's signed for sub 2, but they're so tough, because if they have low equity, it's typically not cash flowing, which means, the buyer pool goes way down. That's kind of like how we got started in real estate, how we got started wholesaling sub 2s, and how we pushed into that market. But the cash deals, we hadn't done any yet. And that got my first cash deal done in, I think, June 2024 was when we finally, closed the first one.
And you also mentioned that you are doing novations. Do you mind sharing a little bit more? How did you get to that, and what's the what is success?
So I'm not a giant success story for novations. However, looking back, I had some limiting mindset issues on novations. I thought that they were silly, that who would want to do that? It makes no sense. You're just listing their property, right? All these self-limiting beliefs. When I joined this program, Anna pointed out right away, she had shared with me a lady that just had 2 novations closed, and she made like 20-something, $30-something thousand. And I was like, this is ridiculous. How is this working? I need to know more about it. So I talked to that lady. I talked to a couple other people that are a few levels ahead of me in the game, and they have, bigger businesses, more consistent revenue. And I started talking to them all, and they were saying that they were doing novations, like at least 50-70% of their deals are novations. And I'm like, I am missing something. We spend so much money on marketing. We spent all this time trying to just do cash wholesale. How do I do more novations? And so I sat down with a few people that kind of walked me through how they're pitching them and how they're executing on them and how it's benefiting everybody, right? So we're in a season of no right now. We're trying not to do things outside of our hedgehog concept, trying to stay focused on what we're good at, but we're also developing some skills. And one that we want to add to the tool belt is novation. So a few months ago, I think the first novation we contracted was last year. The price was wrong. The sellers couldn't take less, so we had to cancel. It was a mistake on our part. Really, the condition was in worse shape than we thought, and then we still had to try helping them. It was very rural. This year, right now, we have 2 under contract. Neither of them have closed, but we just started pushing them a couple months ago, like trying to, if cash doesn't work, go to novation. And immediately after doing that, we got like 2 contracts. Then I brought on an acquisition person to help me out. So I don't have a ton of success. We haven't closed any of the novations with these leads yet, but we have the process. I got a mentor that can help me through them, and we know how to do the evaluations. And honestly, the conversations are easier. I would love to share the recording with the ladies. Like, I want to make sure you make money. Like, she knows, like, you know what I mean? When you're wholesaling, you're the buyer and you're hoping you can make money, and you should make money if your process and your numbers are right. But there's always this lingering, like, I hope something doesn't go wrong. And when I'm telling them, hey, our cash number isn't going to work, but what we can do here is X, Y, and Z and guarantee you this net number, they immediately come to you're on the same side of the table now. They're basically hiring you. I mean, this lady is so excited to work with us, and we have a projected profit of 20,000. Now there's some hurdles and they take longer and you don't get the money as quick, but the time and energy you save on trying to dispose something super quick, that may be a tight deal, that maybe like on a cash wholesale, you would make a few thousand, and on a novation, you might make 20. I think it's worth it. I get to build relationships with the agents that are listing them. It's easier to communicate with the sellers when they know what you're doing exactly. At the end of the day, if all the numbers are wrong, let's say you make a mistake, you can always carve yourself out of the deal to help the seller get it done. You can ask the agent to reduce their commissions if that's what it takes, or you can let them know, like, hey, the open market's rejected your numbers. Like this, we thought we could get this done, and this is what we're going to have to do to make it happen. And everybody's on the same team, and it's not some big scary thing where your price is a big issue. So that's kind of where we've been with it. We're trying to push more of them to get a bigger sample size. We're starting with cash wholesale. If we can take a cash wholesale at 10 grand, we're going to do it just to get it done quick. But if we need to go to novations, we're going to do that next. Just depends on what's best for the seller. We don't want to push them into novation if they don't need that solution or they don't have the time. A lot of people, when I'm competing with these other wholesalers, They're like, well, someone offered me 220,000 and you're offering 200. And I asked them, have you reviewed the agreement? They're like, well, there was this thing about attorney in fact, and I don't really like, did they not explain to you that they're not buying the property, right? A lot of people are lying to the sellers still, which makes it tough to do novations. But that's just always been part of the game. There's always new people that are not having good morals and ethics. Us that are professionals have to educate the sellers on what they're actually signing up for so they can make a good decision. The last thing we want to do is put somebody in a bind or get them into an agreement they don't want to be a part of. That's never good. Never ends well. It's just a big waste.
So what would you say is the hardest part about innovations? Is that because it just takes longer, or is it just, to get a buy-in from the seller without like misleading them into that?
There's nothing in the beginning. I guess what I thought was difficult was explaining to the seller why I should be involved at all, because the reality is they could just list it with an agent. The difference is, I guess, the challenge isn't explaining it to them. It's just really being honest and executing the way you say you're going to. So if you're not lying to them at all, there's nothing challenging about it. It's just presenting the option. You make your cash offer. No, I can't do that. You try to box the objection. If it's something, if it is just the price and they want more money, then you bring in hey, if you have 60 to 90 days, we might be able to do this. Having that conversation with them, I don't find anything difficult about it. Maybe trying to explain the value that you're bringing, because you are bringing value, especially if you're doing repairs. One of the ones we have a roofer that's giving us the estimate. He will get paid at escrow. So once we have an accepted purchase agreement, so I guess maybe understanding the transaction, like the architecture of the transaction and the paperwork that needs to be done, and then finding a good agent that understands what you're doing so that they can help you get the deal done and get it marketed. In a perfect world, you would have the agent list it. You would have the agent take professional photos. You would have the agent help you coordinate with their network to find somebody that's a roofer that can do if it needs a roof, for example, to qualify for traditional finance for payment at escrow. They're going to blast the deal out everywhere. Being able to do that and take care of, like, if someone needs help moving, being able to help them out, get them a referral, get them someone in good hands that can take care of them. Or if it's a really good deal, maybe you're paying for it up front because you had committed to doing that. Like, those are the things that maybe make it difficult. But I think all that comes from just a lack of education. So, if you're not doing novations, my question would be like, is it because you don't know how to, or is it because you don't think they're the right thing to do? Like, usually there's a knowledge gap. If you find someone that does novations all the time and you can get them to sit down with you for an hour, you will realize it's so much easier. It's like you can get the agent to do the whole thing. Once you get the contract and you get the title open, the agent's taken over and they're going to earn their 3%. If you don't have an agent and you're listing it yourself with a flat fee service because it's a tight deal, now you got to get a lockbox. You got to get your own photos. You got to do all this. And that does take more work. But, in a perfect world, the hardest part, I guess, would just be the architecture of the transaction and getting the agent on board. And once you do those two things, it's pretty hands off. You're checking in with your agent, you're checking in with the seller, giving them updates every week, and everybody's happy.
So do you mind telling us a little bit more, how, what's your pitch basically on novations when you say, like, why do you need to be involved?
So if they ask the question, I'm going to explain the value. So in this recent one, the lady was really hung up on a price. And once I found out about why, it was because she's in foreclosure, because she has these fees piling up, because she's going to lose her house. She can't afford to do all this. Everybody's trying to pitch sub to her. And I just explained to her that, we do subject to, it's not the best solution for you. If you were my best friend, I would not have you do subject to, because you have equity here. And there's another solution that's better where you don't have the debt in your name. So what I did was I explained to her what we were going to do is we're going to guarantee her a net proceed of $245,000, which allows her to walk away with about $10,000 after everything's all said and done. We're going to market the property with our preferred agent. We're going to take professional photos. We're going to get the roof fixed. We're going to get the AC fixed. And we're going to clean the house up and get it prepared for her so that it can sell at a premium. And I was very clear. The agent gets paid first on both sides. The title company gets paid. You get paid. And I'm the last one. So if for some reason my numbers are off and all these things happen, you're at no risk and I'm going to make no money. And if for some reason the offer came in low, if for some reason we couldn't make this work after all this, you still have $10,000 to lower your price and I won't make anything. And that's okay with me. And that's where she immediately wanted me. She's like, well, I want you to make money. I'm like, listen, I'm going to make money on this. I'm confident in the number, but we need you to cooperate because we're going to do all these things. We're going to get you estimates on the roof. We're going to get them to pay it at closing because Mrs. Seller, do you have the money to pay for the roof? Well, my roof's not leaking. Like, it's 20 years old. It needs replaced. It's not going to qualify for conventional financing. Well, my friend's a realtor. She can just list it. Great. Why haven't you had her list it yet? Well, they've been asking me, but I just really need it to sell quick. I'm like, do you think that your friends are going to get it sold quick if they list it? Well, she starts digging herself a hole. Like, I think they could. And then we just have to explain to them, hey, if they list your property and they get an offer, the next thing that's going to happen is an inspection. That inspection is going to find the roof's bad. The inspection is going to find the AC's bad. Their bank is not going to qualify for a mortgage. They're going to ask you to fix that. Do you have the money to fix that? No. Like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take care of all these things for you. You can sit back and relax and know that you're taken care of, and you're going to get a check for $245,000 when this thing closes. We do need you to get the house cleaned out. We do need you to get your stuff out of there. We do need a lockbox. You do all those things, we're going to take care of it. Now, if they don't have any repairs that need to be made, what I'm going to do is illustrate to them, hey, like, for example, this one in Crestview that we just started, our cash offer was $80,000. She said she needed 120. And then she came down to 105. And she said, I could do 105, but I got a net 105 or else I can't buy my next house. To me, that's an objection that makes sense. She needs, even though it's maybe a little unreasonable, the house that she wants to buy is the only reason she's selling this one. She doesn't need to sell this one. She wants to buy the other house. So if we could get her a net 105, she would do it. Now, maybe cash wholesale, somebody would try it, but I'm pretty confident that it won't sell there. So what I told her was, hey, we can't buy this, but what we can do is we can help you get this thing sold and put $105,000 in your pocket. Would you be opposed to learning more about that program? So we always try to get people to say no, right? This is a psychology thing. So she gets to say no, which is a yes. And then I explained to her what we're going to do is we're going to come in and take an assessment of your home. We're going to get professional photos. We're going to clean it up. We're going to get this thing on the open market, and we're going to blast it out to every agent in the area. We're going to do all the hard work. If somebody needs the roof repaired, we're going to get it done. If someone wants this done, we're going to get it fixed. And we're going to help get the house prepared to sell for the price that, it's worth. In reality, we'll make concessions a lot of times. So if people want something fixed, we can just offer a lower price and let them do it. Like, hey, we'll take $5,000 off the price, and we'll do it. But the underwriting process is where you got to pad all that in. So we knew we're at 90% of the as-is value minus our profit. And on this one, it's like $30,000 or $25,000 profit still. And so we have a lot of room to make concessions. And so the value we're bringing is we're going to market it to everybody. We're going to take care of any repairs if they're required for them to close. And we're going to manage the transactions. Since she's busy, she doesn't have any agents. She doesn't know anybody in the area. She doesn't know the process. It's stressful to her. And as a single mother who works a lot, she is just happy that somebody like me is on her side working for her, because she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know what agent to call. What if my house doesn't sell? Does it mean people are going to be in and out of my house a bunch? Like, I don't even know this real estate agent. She doesn't really know me too much either, but we did spend an hour on the phone and we talked about it, and she feels really comfortable with us. So again, it comes down to communication, explaining exactly what you're going to do. The alternative is important too, letting them understand their alternative. If you do want to sell this on your own, you're going to have to find an agent. You're going to have to interview multiple agents probably. You're going to get different assessments. You're also going to have to take a list of repairs they want, because they may not list your property if it's not in good condition. They may want you to make the roof repair before they list it. They may do an inspection and say it's not going to qualify. So you need to do all these things, and then they'll list it. Do you have time for that, Mrs. Seller? No, I don't. Okay, well, this is what I'm going to do, right? We're going to negotiate on your behalf. We're going to take care of all those things. And then you got to actually do it. But yeah, for some reason in my mind, I believe that these type of deals were too good to be true. Nobody would want to do it. And what I've found since we started having the conversation is people actually really do want to do it. And they like the idea of a hands-off, like, concierge service, just taking care of it, like getting it sold for the most money possible. And they're okay with us making money doing that. And we are doing them a service. We are working really hard to make sure that it gets sold. And we're working with agents that we know. That's maybe an advantage I have, is I know some agents that are really good. That confidence level goes up dramatically.
And you mentioned it took you like 5 months to, like, really to get into the reading flow, to do all of that, like to learn some certain things. What do you say were like top things that you needed to learn to, get the things rolling? I mean, like, you mentioned protests, all that stuff, but you mentioned, like, when you mentioned like 5 months, it took me like to get to the point. So I understand now. So what was those things?
In my mind, there was when we started Cash, I had again, I had this problem of like inserting things in my head, anticipating things that aren't true. So instead of just going after it, I was imagining there was going to have to be these hard negotiations and all these complicated things. And in reality, you can't manufacture deals. And I thought everything was a deal. Like I was trying to make everything a deal. So I would spend a bunch of time working, underwriting down to the penny, trying to make this deal work for this person. And then I would waste all my time on somebody that wasn't motivated, that was at the wrong price. And then if we did contract it, then we spent all of our time trying to sell it. None of those are money-making activities. You need to get in front of the people that want to sell at the right price or close to it, and that you know is a deal. So we spent a lot of time underwriting and messing around with stuff, trying to like figure out, will somebody pay 85% ARV? You know, what is the ARV on this one? Like all those things. It's just a giant waste of time. Now that I've had exposure to real motivated sellers and people that are ready to make a decision, more or less, I spend more time basically talking to people that are interested in selling than I did before. That might be the biggest single factor that changed. And I also know what we can and can't do. So I may have overpromised people stuff before because I was just wanting to get a contract and want to get something going. Now it's real easy to back away from something that's not a deal and explain to them why it's not a deal. And then they're more likely to be like, well, I understand. Yeah, let's still do this and make it work. So I'm less needy, more educated on what we can and can't do, and also really confident in the numbers that we're providing them and the process. So all those things before, if you haven't sold a property, how can you be confident in what's going to happen next? You know, you don't really know if they're going to sign the contract. Then what are you going to do? What do you send to title if you're new at wholesaling? What's that opening email look like? Do you copy the seller on it? What if title asks you if you're going to assign it? How do you find buyers? Do you pull a list and skip trace it? Do you use investor lift? You know what I mean? All those things were distractions. And once you've gotten a few reps in and you can trim off the fat and get rid of all the things that don't have to happen right now, you can just focus all your time and energy on the things that make you money. And before you know it, you're making so much, you're getting so many more at bats with motivated sellers that it's really unreasonable to not get a deal or not get it done is what I've found. So I call it paying the ignorance tax. When you do anything new, you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And until you know what you don't know, you just got to keep moving forward. And this is for any skill. Like if I were to start my own PPC campaign, I don't know anything about PPC, but I can guarantee you by the end of the year, I know quite a bit. But you got to pay that tax, right? You got to, all these little things that you have to do. And as you muddle through it, at the end of it, you're like, I know so much more now. If I knew this then, I could just speed this up so much. And then another important part is mentors. So it's for any skill. If you can find someone at the next level and you can show them that you're truly motivated and focused on achieving this goal and you want to follow in their footsteps, most people will give you their time because they want to see you succeed too. And that's a big hack. Doing it on your own with no mentor, no community is very tough. You need to find someone that can guide you through the tough times and also the problems, because when they come up, it's super nice to have somebody you can rely on to give you that feedback, or maybe review a call or something that happened and give you some direction on that.
And you mentioned several times, like, you're very confident in numbers. How are you confident in numbers? Like, do you use some specific comping tools? Like, I never closed a deal in my life, so I'm just curious for anybody who is trying to close deals. And I know comping always, comes up as one of the big topics for new people.
Yeah, so I've gone through some phases in this, and I'll be just totally honest. We made some terrible mistakes. We've contracted stuff too high. Here's the progression. So logical progression was seller seems motivated. They want too much money. How can we make that much money work? So we start instead of coming up to our price, we're trying to figure out how do we make their price work, because that's what they want. And so we would put together a spreadsheet. And we would pull in 3 comparables. And then the comparables have to have all these parameters to be a comparable. They got to be plus or minus 5 years, 10 years construction, same neighborhood. You know what I mean? You take a whole class on comping, and just to get an ARV. Once you have the ARV, you got to have 3 of them. And then if you don't have 3, then you start to question do I have enough comps? Like all these things. What if you can't find anything that fits those comps, right? So you do all that work just to get to a number that's an ARV. And then you do a percentage-based deduction for the buyer's profit, for the holding costs, for closing costs and all that, which a lot of people know, like the 75% rule, depending on the price to value. But it goes up with the more expensive properties. We didn't like the number that was giving us. So we were stupid and we were like, we're going to break this down. We're going to take out 3% or whatever, 1.5% for closing costs, 6% for agent commissions. Then we're going to deduct a 10% profit margin for the buyers. All this complicated math. We built this giant sheet. And then you plug in all the numbers and it would spit out like a number, what you could offer based off of how big your assignment was. And we even had an itemized list for repairs. So like doors, windows, how much we went through all that work to figure out what they cost, what it cost to paint per square foot, all this stuff. And at the end of it, we would get a number and we're like, this is the number we can do to sell this for a $10,000 profit. And we would make the offer and the seller would just laugh and say no and hang up. And it's like, what are we doing here? We had so much time underwriting that we just like, I got sick of it. We went back to the percentage-based offer minus assignment, which usually was very much like accurate. It was never that far off. I mean, it's close enough to make the initial offer, right? You start weeding out the people that their price is really far off. We just wouldn't make offers on them, or we would let them know that, hey, we're going to be way lower than that. It's not going to work. And then they'd say, oh yeah, well, if you can't do that, it's not going to work for me. Great. We don't want to talk to you then. Right. So we started eliminating these people earlier on in the process. And that way we weren't talking to them. So then when we were making the offers, we were just taking a ballpark number based off of the ARV, which we were gathering from comparables still, right? We would still pull like a few comparables. Or we'd look for like a best comparable. While we're on the phone with them, we would maybe look for like a comparable in the area that looked good. And then we would see where it was bought at. So like if you get on Privy, you can see recent flips and you might see that 3 of them were bought at $70,000 and the ARV is 180. So you can just assume you probably need to be around that number. That's one way. But what we ended up on is a lot of times when I'm on the phone with them, I've defaulted to the Jerry Norton method. So he's got so much experience in this. It's really hard to doubt his processes. Now, the only downside is he's trying to buy the deals deeper than most people. But the psychology is this: when you're offering that deep, you do it in a way that doesn't get you hung up. And if they counter or they come back and they want to talk, now you can get deep into your underwriting. You can figure out, you can do your comparables, you can verify the ARV, you can do all those things. But at that point, you're just taking basically the average of the Zillow, the Realtor, and the Redfin number. Or if you're like me, I usually just take the Zillow number and times it by 0.7 and minus 25,000. Find a deal where that's not right, where you're in the median home price. It's a good number for a wholesaler to be at. So if I see the Zillow price says 90,000, I will just have my calculator up, like we'd probably be around this number, and then they'll give me whatever they give me is an indicator of if they're motivated or not. So if they say no, if they counter a little bit higher, I'm going to say, well, I'm going to have to run the numbers here. I feel pretty confident with this. It's going to need a lot of work. Like we talked, the roof's caving in, foundation needs work. It's going to take a lot of work. But if they're close enough, what I'll do is I'll then send them the contract. I'll let them know we're going to do a quick inspection. We need to verify our numbers and we're going to do our due diligence. Not fighting them on it. If they're within 10, 15% of that number, I'm not going to sit there and argue with them over what they think their property's worth. We haven't seen it yet. So what we'll do, and again, this comes down to setting expectations properly and having integrity. Like there's one in Tampa right now. I knew he wanted too much, but he wanted us to try. He wanted us to try to get him the 280,000. I told him we probably need to be closer to 230, 240. And he said, I'm not selling it for 280,000 or anything less. All right, what I'm going to do is send you over a contract, $280,000. We're going to send our guys in. We're going to do an inspection. Maybe I'm missing something on the repairs. Maybe we can figure out a way to get you 280. I don't know, but we need to get in the property and I can't send my guys without a contract. Are you ready to move forward? Yeah, send it over. Signs the contract, got our buyers in there, did our inspection, itemized the repair estimates, 115,000. I thought it was going to be 80,000 worth of repairs. It's actually worse. What that did when I called him back 2 days later, say, hey, John, this is Nick. We did that inspection and I got some news for you here. We really wanted to make this work at 280. I thought that we needed to be closer to 250. We actually need to be at about 220. There's a lot of work. And I went through all the things. And I was like, I appreciate, giving us the opportunity here. How would you like to proceed? And he goes, well, let's do it for 220. I think you guys know exactly what's going on. We want you to take a look at, you looked at the property, you know what you have to do. I really sent one of our buyers into the property. So there's no contingencies here. This guy, the buyer made us an offer. We put our assignment in there. Everything's clear. We shared photos with the seller and our repair estimate. So they know exactly where we're at and why. A lot of people would have fought that guy over the price because it was a little bit wrong. The difference is what we don't want to do is we don't want to give someone a price we know won't work and then drag them along to the day before closing and try to do a price drop. That's the stuff that makes a terrible name for the people in our industry. In this case, I know why they want more money. They don't want to give up equity. How would you feel as a seller if someone gave you a number over the phone without seeing your property, and then you wouldn't know if there was more money to be left on the table? Like, how do you know if you didn't ask too little? Sometimes people ghost you because you agree to their number, and then they think they can get more. So now they go and they call everyone else and they're like, hey, I got an offer for 280. I can get 290 and I'll make this work, right? And so it's just about transparency, and we're really big on that. So we told them openly, like, hey, it's going to be tight. 280 is probably not going to work. Now, if our buyer would have came in and said, I could pay 300, we would have done the deal. We wouldn't have renegotiated. Absolutely. If we can make money at the number we give them, we're going to get it done because that's what we committed to. But there's been a couple times where we've adopted that strategy. Get the contract, do a very quick inspection. Don't drag your feet. Don't waste their time. Come back with a number that you know will work. And usually you don't get to do 2 renegotiations. So that was what we did. And that's how we handle those people. That's how we're confident in our numbers, because I know that we're going to have a buyer walk the property right afterwards. If it is tight, that's worked out really well for us on actually 3 deals recently where one of them we didn't contract first. They were just giving us exclusive rights to the deal. And we had our buyer walk the property. We thought we could do 40,000. And after the buyer walked it, we were at 20. And they were okay with it. They're like, you saw the property. We'll do 20,000. So it's a really powerful thing. But again, a lot of self-limiting beliefs. I was one of those people that never wanted to contract something at the wrong price. What you really avoiding is you don't want to contract something at the wrong price and try to wholesale it and not be able to wholesale it, because then you just look like you hurt everybody. Once you have your buyers, once you have people you can trust, you can do your due diligence in 2 to 3 days. And if you do that, you're not wasting anybody's time. I promise you. They can go back to every other investor, they can call them, and they can get what they need. But getting to that point was tough. We had to build those buyers. We had to build relationships with them. And we had to know that they weren't going to steal the deal, because some of these deals were making $30,000, $50,000. I'm sure that buyer would love to make an extra $30,000 to $50,000 on their flip, right?
Last 2 quick questions. You mentioned like you closed all kinds of deals with us. Is there some on different leads? Is there some particular approach you have? If it's like cold lead or cold call lead, if it's Facebook lead, if it's Google lead, like what's the typical opening? I imagine you don't say something like you filed the form on my website if it's a cold call lead.
Yeah.
What's your general opening like for you and you guys?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. I love it. I thrive in those situations where you just put me on the phone with someone and I can tune into them and act like I know them, right? So for me, it's my opening is, hey, this is Nick. I was giving you a call about your property. Are you still looking to sell the property? Or I will say something like, hi, this is Nick. How you doing? Good. How are you? What's this call about? Like, oh, I got your information here. I was giving you a call because it looks like you were interested in selling your property. Is that right? How'd you get my information? Like, okay, so you don't want to sell your property? I'm immediately like closer to no than them. Like, I don't want to talk to them if they don't want to sell. But because the lead sources vary from, I have a list of them here. Short 99, Nationwide Investors Group, Investor Cash Offers, Sell Your Home Fast for Cash. I used to try to have an intro for each one. And I had Anna tell me like if it was cold call or Facebook. I just quit doing that. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if they want to sell their house, they're going to talk to you. I just keep it simple. I'll say something like, hey, this is Nick. I wanted to see if you're still interested in selling your property. Or, hey, this is Nick. How are you doing today? To try to get them to respond. And if they say good, it just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. If I'm not feeling that sort of intro, I'll just go straight to the point. And very rarely do they ask how I got the information. Sometimes if they've been in discovery for a few months and we haven't got a hold of them, and then we get a hold of them, they're like, I don't want to sell my house. Like, yeah, well, I got your information here. looks like you filled out one of our forms, or maybe it was a Facebook thing, and you said you want to sell. What changed? You had said a couple months ago you wanted to sell. Oh, I don't want to sell anymore. So you're not interested in a cash offer. You definitely don't want to sell your property. That's kind of what we do. We've been really successful with the Investor Network Group, Nationwide Investors Group, which I think both of those might be Facebook leads. We have a few cold call contracts, and then Short 99 was another source that we contracted on. I'm not sure what that was.
Yeah, this is a mix, like YouTube, Google, all those kinds of, and I appreciate you sharing that. So just last, like this is almost the end. I appreciate you sharing all this knowledge you already shared. So how many contracts total did you close with us, and how much total profit you have and expect?
We started with you guys in October. We basically were down half of December and half of January because we went through a partnership change. We had to change our whole CRM. We lost 3/5 of our team. We had to start from scratch. So I wasn't doing a good job calling them, I'll be honest. But we closed last year. I want to say it was close to $60,000 with you guys. It was a $53,000 assignment in Sarasota. And right now we have 5, 6, 7, 8. I think we're up to like 10 contracts with you guys, but a lot of them are probate. So I'm getting them through probate before we can close. But just as soon as, last week we contracted another one that's going to be closing next week. So it's a very quick one. And the lead came in, we contracted it the same day. That was one that my acquisition guy did. So right now on the board for projected revenue with you guys, let me add it up. It's probably $70,000 to $100,000 in projected revenue if I'm just going to bracket it. Of course, we'll have some fallout. Some of those won't work. Maybe we end up at 50. But a lot of that downtime really cost us. Other people were getting those deals because we weren't available. Right now, what we're seeing is about, with single family home leads from you guys, we're maybe 40 to 1 lead to contract is about where we're at, 35 to 40 to 1. And that's across all sources. So you're mixing a lot of cold call leads, which industry average is maybe 100 to 1. And then we're getting a lot of Facebook leads in there too, which is, industry average might be, anywhere 25 to 40 to 1. But the way we're getting them is we're not getting them the minute the form's filled out either. So there's a big group of data that shows that the minute that form's filled out, the quicker you call them, the higher likelihood that you're able to convert because they're filling out more forms. And we're actually getting them several hours after that, right? So we're not performing terribly hard, but as far as closings go, unfortunately, we just had one close last week with you guys too, but we have so many probate deals. They're like 8 weeks out to close. And then the novations are like 2 months. I think we're going to put down with you guys this year in closed revenue. I'm hoping to get $300,000 to $500,000 maybe. And we're just opening up another market in Georgia. So we should be able to double what we're doing. And what we're doing right now is going to be about at least 2 contracts a month, sometimes 3 to 4, depending on what we have, at any given part of the week for single family homes.
Top 3 advice for people that start. Just first things that come to your mind.
It's going to be more, if you knew how much work it would be, you probably wouldn't do it. So just learn to love what you're doing. You're never going to be ahead. You're always going to be feeling like you're an idiot and someone always knows more than you. So that feeling you have when you're starting, I still have that feeling. Like I just feel grossly incompetent all the time. And like, there's just nothing I can do to learn everything. So just learn to love that feeling. It means you're growing. Don't worry about the shiny stuff like the CRM and the fancy follow-ups. To be honest, most of our deals come from the first call. If we didn't do follow-ups, we would still be fine. I mean, that's where you can make more money for sure is following up. But once you get a hold of someone and they don't want to sell, people want to build out these really fancy things and they'll spend all day doing it instead of calling their sellers. They'll spend all day trying to build a ringless voicemail, text campaign. I've done it. And then your CRM gets shut down because you can't call because you drop too many ringless voicemails and the carriers are blocking you. So keep it really simple. Also, I think the third thing I would say is if you're doing it alone, learn the type of person that you are. And what I mean is there's several examples. Rocket Fuel is a good book that explains this, like Visionary Integrator. Some of you out there may be very motivated to do this. You may be wanting it more than the air you're breathing to be able to quit your job and wholesale. Just know you can't do it alone. You can make money alone. You can be a solopreneur. You can definitely do that. But my partner, Dwyer, he would never make it because he is all systems, 100% integrator. If he could just never talk to somebody, he'd be happy. And when he has to talk to people, he'll spend 5 minutes getting ready to make the call because he's like so nervous. Him finding someone like me who compliments him. I like talking to people. I'm outgoing. I can have these conversations and not be stressed out about it. Like it's 1 + 1 = 3 is what it means. Like you're getting more out of two people than you would two people individually. And so you have to allocate time to finding that partner in crime that's wants it as bad as you do. When you find that person, put it not necessarily in writing like in an agreement, but make it clear what you guys both want, and make sure that you divvy up your responsibilities such that you know what they're responsible for and you know what you're responsible for. So if you're a closer, if you want to be like RJ Bates, you want to be on the phone all day. How is he on the phone all day? He's got people doing everything else. That is very important. If RJ had to dispo his deals, if RJ had to do transaction coordination, he would make like 10 dials a day, and then his deal flow would just be garbage. You have to call your leads. You have to know what you're good at, and you have to spend time trying to find that person. I really think that a wholesale operation, a duo, two people, it can really be a powerful thing. It's probably like you need to find a partner, unless you just want, I mean, you can do it by yourself. People do it all the time, but you have a high paying job. You're not building a business. It's really hard when you're sick, injured. Maybe you have a family member get sick, you have to go take care of. And now your whole business is risking shutting down because you weren't able to find somebody. So I would definitely, like I said, be comfortable being uncomfortable and being the dumbest person in the room. Ask good questions. Find a partner, and then also just like don't let up. Like don't let up. You got to want it really bad. So you have to keep going, no matter how bad it is or how many deals fall apart. It's going to take more work than you can imagine to get to where you want to go, and just don't think about that part. Just focus on the next step forward, and you'll make it.
Oh, that's been a really awesome interview, and we appreciate you being with us and closing deals with us. Guys, we're gonna drop the contact information so you can reach out to Nick if you need any help to do any JV or anything like that. So we need just advice. We're looking forward for you to close some more deals. Guys, again, it was Yuri with iSpeedToLead and Nick. Stay tuned for more videos.